up, sexy people? It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Australian Screamo quintet, Blind Girls. The band's new album, And It Exists, will be released on July 5th via Persistent Vision Records. From the beaches of Gold Coast, Australia, Blind Girls deliver a version of Screamo that goes for the throat, ripping forth with crisis-level urgency. Where some bands in the genre get lost in meandering instrumentals or historic singing, Blind Girls stay focused and keep the momentum hurricane strong. Rarely crossing the 2-minute mark, their songs are designed for maximum impact. They dispatch their chaotic, cathartic hardcore in short bursts. At the forefront is vocalist Sharnay Brewer, exploring personal traumas through her lyrics. Brewer's shrill, soulful screams are quite literally hair-raising. States An Exit Exists was written during and after 2 separate instances dealing with abuse from those I loved. Each song is a reflection on the emotions and process I went through, from realization, feeling trapped, guilt, defeat, acceptance, and eventually finding a safe way out. Describing the new album, bassist Mark Grant states, "It's our best yet. It's the Blind Girls sound, but expanded and pushed. The new album has some of our most abrasive songs and some of our most melodic songs." One factor distinguishing An Exit Exists from previous work is guitarist Luke Sweeney. The new album is the first to feature Sweeney as a full-fledged contributing member from the very start of the writing process. The album follows 2 LPs and 3 EPs and 1 split. The band have also toured Australia with bands such as La Dispute, Military Gun, on top of numerous tours the US, Canada and Japan. We've played with great metal bands, shoegaze bands. We've played hardcore fests, noise shows, a rap show with Little Ugly Mane, declares Grant. We play small DIY spaces to 50 or 100 people, but recently I've played 1,000 to 2,000 cap venues. All that matters is, if the crowd has energy, then it feels right. The album was recorded by Brock Weston, with additional recordings by drummer Ben Smith, and then mixed and mastered by Rolly Ulug. Okay, so Blind Girls. I kind of feel like this might need like a wee pre-listen warning, this album, because I don't think I was prepared for this one. Like, when I hit play, I don't think I was ready when it kicked in. And then what followed. And I love hardcore, I love post-hardcore, Screamo, but it's not an album of like macho breakdowns and trendy production techniques.
No, it couldn't be any further removed from that, Dave.
Different beast. What about yourself? What did you feel about this one? How did you get on with Blind Girls?
I thought this was great. Right.
Okay.
I'd like right from the off. As someone who in a former life like did some metal vocals, I like hearing tones that evoke something in me, and this did that. Like right from the off, the hairs on my arms stood up, like from the first scream. You can tell like there's a difference between someone phoning it in and someone like venting, like someone like getting catharsis through the job they're doing, and that's all the way through. This is fucking pain, man. This is like all like from start to finish. The vocal tone, the only thing I can liken it to is think of the most savage moments in Dillinger, where like Greg is like screaming to the point where you're just like, that is just fucking, and just imagine that, but like slightly more distorted, slightly higher in a register, and then there's no bit where the singing kicks in. That's just the tone. It's fucking awesome, and it holds your attention. Like for something as savage, I never got tired of it. I think the band are very clever in how they place it. There are sections where vocals will cut out, the band just carry things through. There's a couple of interlude tracks on here which break things up. The way to describe this is kind of like, it has all the energy of a dog that's caught a toy and is doing that fucking shaky thing where you just like, right, it's not going anywhere. It's an inanimate you're an inanimate fucking object. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's like doing the fucking shaky. Like it just is like a ball of kinetic energy from start to finish. Just volatile is the best word to describe it. In the background, you have everything from kind of hardcore to punk to kind of mathcore, kind of math rocky stuff. Is jagged all the way through it, and as a result, the moments where you get something that involves a little bit more, I dare say, melody. It's atmosphere and tone rather than full-on melody. Those moments really stand out, but there are very few of them, and they are placed like as a warning before the next track, which will make up for any. Like, see, people are like, "Oh, it's like why is there fillers on there?" You kind of need the minute that you get of something that's a bit more serene before you are like taken very much like the track is called Closer to Hell. I actually really enjoy the songwriting on this. I think they do a lot of kind of chaos really, really well, but it feels measured and controlled. The guitar work is excellent, but they will lock in on a kind of hardcore punky groove. And you get those kind of Dillinger's the way I would describe it. Those kind of like you're getting, but like just for a bar or maybe two, and then they're off to the races again, and it keeps you second guessing where things are going. The production in this is fucking great. Like the guitars are super clear but kind of dangerous sounding. The drum work is impressive, fast, sharp, and it slaps all the way through. And like I say, the vocals could easily be too much of a focal point in here if mixed poorly. So if you mix it not enough, you don't get the impact and the tone of it. If you go the other way and you put it too prominent, it distracts from everything else that you have here. And I kind of felt like every little song was a wee story. You know what I mean? I kind of felt like they all had their relevant movements and they all kind of took you where they needed to go, and then they all finished in a way where you kind of felt like, well, that's the end of that story. That like, it's almost like someone very quickly, passing as much information as they can, and then relax. It's little water cooler stories where you've only got enough time to fill your cup before your boss is like, "Where is he?" Like, "Oh, did you see that? I did. I see you later." I kind of feel like there's an urgency about it. I mean, it's exquisitely timed as an album. I think you couldn't really do much more. It's like 20, 22, 23 minutes long. I think it's perfect length. I think maybe one or two more songs. I think it would maybe grate on me a little bit more. But I think they managed to go through a ton of incredible dexterity in playing. There's very little I can complain about here, to be honest. I think it sounds awesome. And it all works for me. It's maybe not the most original thing I've heard in the grand scheme. Well, we've heard a lot of kind of more savage punk recently, and it kind of reminded me of that. And even some of that French hardcore it's maybe not as intense as this, but has all the fury behind it as well. I was thinking of that band Calcine that we reviewed recently, and there was a real venom in that as well. That's kind of similar to this. This one just like is all emotion. I think that's what resonates for me. My head is still trying to get around the fact they're from Australia, especially the Gold Coast, which is maybe arguably one of the prettiest places on the planet. So those two things don't square quite right with me. But yeah, if you're looking for something that will just make you feel fucking miserable, this is it. This is the album for you this month. It's kind of fucking awesome.
Nice. But not gonna lie, when I finished the album for the first time, I was spent. I was like, I mean, and bear in mind, this is 22 and a half minutes long. This album.
It's not long. It's not long.
But I was like, right, I need to follow this up with something light and fluffy and saccharine. Give me a goddamn Weezer album right now, because, like the press release says, this does go for the throat. They weren't lying at all. There are very few moments on this where you can, grab a breath. And like if you've heard the previous release and you thought that was intense, then just hold on, because this one kind of steps up even more. This one goes more into the red than the last one. And when I had my first listen, I actually took a day in between before listening to it again, or plucked up the courage to listen to it again, because for me it was definitely something I had to be in the right frame of mind for once I'd heard it once. It's one that I couldn't really have on in the background. It's a kind of sit and kind of feel every emotional moment type listen. It's extremely cathartic. It's an album that is as much about being intense musically as it is emotionally. And you can feel that instantly. I mean, like the first track is called Dissonance, and it gives you very much a lot of dissonance. The guitar work is, like you said, it's very kind of like chaotic and tangled, and the vocals are very distressed and quite kind of acidic. The drums are in a very kind of hardcore punk kind of bass to them, very anarchic in style, with the speed of the fills. And like the first track is only 1 minute and 17 seconds long, and that's it. You're done. Like on to the next one. They don't hang around. That rapidly moves into Loveless. And when it first kicked in, I was like a little bit of a like newer kind of Knocked Loose kind of vibe to begin with. But then it evolves into something much more like math punk kind of laden, with kind of like this like botch type dissonance and the lead work before coming back to that like short kind of heavy groove that they use at the beginning of the track. And that's like the thing, as you said, as frenzied and kind of like turbulent as this can be, there are moments where they do lock into something more straight down the line. They just let the kind of groove do its thing, but they don't linger on it at all. I started to notice more of those sections on my kind of second and third listen to this. And sometimes even those kind of straight parts are, mixed with something a little bit weirder in timing, or an off-kilter kind of rhythm from the drummer. I really liked the end of Closer to Hell, which definitely had that kind of like jarring Dillinger kind of feel to it. But then there are tracks on this that start to veer into like a different lane, like Less Than 3, where that hears the band start to kind of add more kind of almost kind of black metal characteristics in the guitar work, giving you these blast beats and really kind of blackened chord work, tremolo picking. But then that comes with this really like kind of clean middle section that blends the kind of the start and front or start and end of the track together. And that's also something they do really well. They don't just stick to the heavy all the time. They're not in that visceral lane the whole time. Blind Girls do include these just little passages of like clean guitars or moments where they let the kind of rage simmer, in the middle of a track before taking you out on a kind of wave of violence. Less Than 3 is a great example of that kind of type of arrangement that gives you that contrast and extremes. But no matter what's going on, whether it be full attack or, giving you a little bit of bleak melody, the vocals are just constantly in kind of turmoil the whole time. Even when the guitars go a little cleaner, and there's that little bit of breathing room, the vocals still sound agonizing right straight through this. That the emotion never stops kind of pouring out of her. And it's phenomenal to listen to her. I think her tone is just utterly scathing, but you feel every word of it. Her delivery is just pure authenticity the whole way through. And the parts that I could pick out felt, lyrically very kind of like poetic. I think for me it came across probably most on Lilac, which was track 9, where she's adds in kind of spoken word and stuff, which I thought worked really well. When I was listening to the album though, I was thinking I'd really like to watch her live. I think that vocal performance on the album would be even more kind of exciting to see up close and personal. You like feel the energy. Great kind of transition in the middle of the album, track 6 into 7, where they have that kind of, I'm assuming the kind of vinyl flip of, that kind of cleaner track and Closer to Hell. And then the rest of the album kind of proceeds to kind of just keep kind of going, jumping back and forth between pure annihilation and little kind of moments of ambience and atmosphere. I thought the last track was excellent. Home Will Find Its Way. It's one of the few moments in the album where the kind of clean melody actually felt more positive than bleak, and ominous.
It's also the longest track at 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah. slightly more uplifting feel, which I thought was a nice way to close out the album. I suppose my only small kind of complaint was that the tracks are very short, apart from that last track at 2:53. And for the style, I think it works. For the most part. I felt like there was a couple of occasions where there was certain tracks I felt like I wish I'd maybe explored that a little further, or maybe expanded a little bit on certain ideas. They maybe just cut them short a little too quickly for me when I thought, like, you're touching on something great here. I just wish you would kind of expand a little bit more. But that was my only kind of gripe. Took me a minute to digest the album, not going to lie, but once I got my head in the right kind of space for it, I actually thought this was really good. It's sincere, it's tight as hell, it's cathartic, and I thought they nailed that kind of tone of ugly heaviness against that kind of chilling melody. Killer production as well. I think they've got a sound that complements their style, but it's not overproduced or fucked with too much that it loses any of that kind of honest grit. So yeah, I'm definitely now a fan of Blind Girls. Final thing, what you thinking on the scores for this one? What you giving this one?
Right, yeah, this is a solid 4 from me.
Yeah.
I think this is the caveat probably is there that don't go in if you've just been promoted at work. Don't listen to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just found out you're going to be a parent. Don't listen to this. If you've just found out that your arch villain has once again foiled your plans, then shove this motherfucker on. Right, that's the time to do that. Yeah, 4 for me. I'm very curious to see if they will travel out over here. Australian bands don't always come as far as the UK. They're definitely one that would suit. Small club venue, intimate, right up against the band, and her just screaming in my face, and I'd be happy.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm the same. 4 out of 5 for me as well. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Hadn't heard of the band before, but definitely a fan now. And I would, love to see this live. I hope they do come over this neck of the woods at some point. I'd definitely go and see them. So that is Blind Girls, and Exit exists out on July 5th. Links below to the band, to the pre-order. Check it out, have a listen, see what you think. Let us know in the comments below. That is the review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.